Okay, let's dive right into this. If you've spent literally any amount of time scrolling through the wellness side of the internet lately, the algorithm has almost certainly served this up to you. Someone takes a super deep breath, looks to the side, maybe aggressively massages their ears or jaw, and promises that this incredibly simple 30-second action is going to trigger a total nervous system reset. I mean, the trend is absolutely exploding. So today, in this explainer, we're going to break down the whole shebang, the science, the theories, and the actual genuine medical reality behind it all.
So, can you really reset your nervous system in just 30 seconds? That is the big, central question driving our explainer today. We're talking about videos racking up millions, and I mean millions of views, all claiming that you can practically cure your anxiety and completely rewire your brain with these really simple at-home body hacks. And look, with nearly 1 in 11 people experiencing chronic anxiety over their lifetime, an instant biological off switch, that sounds like an absolute miracle. People are desperate for real relief, so it makes total sense why this is so captivating. But is it real, or is it just the internet's latest wellness obsession? Let's take a look at what the source material actually tells us.
To really understand the hype here, we have to look at the most viral technique of all, which is Stanley Rosenberg's basic exercise. The steps are, well, they're surprisingly simple. You basically just lie on your back, interweave your fingers behind your head, and then, here's the key part, without turning your head, you just look to the right. You hold that exact position until you spontaneously yawn or swallow, and then you just repeat it on the other side. Proponents of this claim it works because there's supposedly this direct neurological connection between the muscles that move your eyeballs and the muscles at the base of your skull, so moving your eyes is purported to easily reset what they call your ventral vagus nerve.
Which brings us to the star of the show. What exactly is the vagus nerve? Biologically speaking, it's the longest cranial nerve in your entire body. The word vagus actually means wanderer in Latin, which honestly is beautifully accurate. Instead of a straight line, I want you to picture this giant wandering tree inside of you. It really is incredible. It starts way up in your brainstem, and its branches literally wander all the way down, tapping into your heart, your lungs, your digestive tract. It acts as this massive information superhighway, constantly firing vital updates back and forth between your brain and your internal organs.
To see why this superhighway matters so much, we need to look at how your body's automatic functions are governed. Traditionally, science divides our autonomic nervous system into two main parts. First, you have the sympathetic nervous system. That's your rapid fight-or-flight response. Think of it as the gas pedal. And then, you have the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest state, the brakes. The vagus nerve is essentially the gateway to this parasympathetic system. When it gets activated, it tells your heart to slow down, your blood pressure to drop, and your entire body to just relax.
Because of this amazing calming ability, scientists focus super heavily on something called vagal tone. Think of vagal tone as basically a measure of how efficiently your vagus nerve is doing its job. Having a higher vagal tone means your body can hit those brakes and relax much faster after you experience something stressful. And researchers actually measure this by tracking something called heart rate variability, or HRV. Actually, if you own a smartwatch or a fitness tracker, you might have even seen it tracking your HRV. When your HRV is high, it correlates with a high vagal tone, which basically indicates you have a resilient, highly adaptable nervous system.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer wild variety of ways people are trying to manually increase that vagal tone. These are the popular, natural lifestyle hacks currently sweeping the internet. We're talking about finishing a nice warm shower with 30 seconds of freezing cold water, practicing deep diaphragmatic breathing, or even just aggressively gargling water before you swallow it. The sources note that everything from taking your probiotics and omega-3s to exercising, meditating, or honestly simply laughing with your friends are all believed to stimulate this vagus nerve and boost your mental health.
But wait, why do we specifically keep hearing terms like ventral or dorsal vagus nerve in all those viral TikToks? Like, where did that specific terminology even come from? Well, to find out, we have to travel back a bit to 1994, to a framework called the polyvagal theory, which was developed by Dr. Stephen Porges. This specific theory is literally the foundational biological framework powering this entire internet wellness trend. It offers a totally different way to look at how our nervous system actually evolved to handle both stress and social connection.
So according to our sources on polyvagal theory, this framework splits the parasympathetic system into two distinct evolutionary branches. First, you've got the older, unmyelinated dorsal vagal complex. The theory links this to a primitive freeze or shutdown response when we're in extreme danger, kind of like a reptile playing dead. Then you have the newer, myelinated ventral vagal complex. This branch is described as this uniquely mammalian, highly evolved, smart vagus that governs things like social engagement, communication, and self-soothing. So when influencers are talking about resetting the nerve, they are very specifically talking about activating the soothing ventral branch.
Now, stepping away from the internet theories for a second, there is a very real, very established medical reality to the vagus nerve. Doctors utilize this nerve literally every single day. For instance, the FDA has approved surgically implanted devices that periodically send electricity right to the vagus nerve to help manage treatment-resistant epilepsy and severe depression. Furthermore, cardiologists sometimes perform targeted carotid massages on the side of a patient's neck to stimulate the nerve and successfully slow down an irregular, rapid heartbeat. So the physical power of the nerve, that is an absolute, undeniable medical fact.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because here is exactly where a critical counter-perspective emerges. The Office for Science and Society at McGill University points out a massive, massive gap between this medical reality and the internet hype. They note that murkiness and wishful thinking about an emerging scientific subject can really easily be spun into certainty. These university researchers point out that while medical science is still exploring the nervous system with, a tiny little flashlight, wellness influencers are out there claiming to have 20/20 vision, spinning all this scientific doubt into do-it-yourself instructional videos. And this skepticism extends deeply into the broader scientific community, particularly regarding the polyvagal theory that fueled the whole trend to begin with. Evolutionary biologists point out some pretty major flaws in the theory's timeline. See, the theory claims that the soothing, myelinated ventral vagus nerve is entirely unique to social mammals. However, researchers have actually found that ancient, primitive lungfish possess these exact same myelinated vagus nerve fibers. I mean, it is genuinely astounding that an ancient lungfish completely dismantles a viral TikTok theory, but this finding directly contradicts the idea that this whole system evolved exclusively from mammalian social engagement.
And what about the actual structure of the brain itself? Well, neuroanatomists have also weighed in, stating that the biological tenets of the theory simply do not withstand close scrutiny. They argue that the dorsal vagal complex really shouldn't be linked to freezing or passive defensive behaviors like the theory proposes. Furthermore, they consider the claims surrounding this super smart ventral vagal complex to be highly exaggerated. They note that it's completely misleading to view the vagus nerve as the primary driver or the prime mover of these incredibly complex emotional states.
So, when you combine this massive wave of internet hype with some very real scientific skepticism, you end up with what McGill University researchers call the boogeyman/panacea myth. Basically, in our desperate pursuit of simple answers to really complex modern anxieties, a highly intricate biological system just gets reduced down to simple pseudoscience jargon. Suddenly, the vagus nerve is blamed for literally every single ailment you have, and a 30-second eye movement trick is sold to millions of people as this magical biological cure-all.
So the crucial point is this. Even if looking to the right or humming a catchy tune isn't literally resetting some biological switch in your brain, the outcome might still actually be helping you. And you definitely aren't foolish for feeling better when you do these exercises. Why? Well, because the core of what the wellness community is prescribing here, taking time to do deep breathing, meditating, taking a walk, or singing, are all highly effective forms of relaxation. Taking a moment to pause a stressful situation and just focus on your breathing genuinely benefits your well-being, for sure, even without the cutting-edge biohacking wrapping paper.
Which leaves us with this final thought for you to ponder today. When we engage in a 30-second routine to cure our stress, are we really hacking a secret biological superhighway? Or have we just invented a very complicated, pseudoscientific excuse to finally give ourselves permission to slow down, take a deep breath, and rest in an incredibly anxious world? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember, keep asking the right questions.